Before I begin, I want to give a huge thanks to the Twitter user Destroy All Humans Tribute for the footage you see in this video. I would have recorded some gameplay myself, but due to time constraints, I wasn't able to record any footage. Although if you've seen my post on social media and Reddit, you know I have played this build. Fortunately, DAH Tribute was nice enough to capture some of his own footage to provide for the video. Many thanks to him for doing this. Be sure to follow his Twitter account for all things Destroy All Humans. He's always sharing interesting facts and rare behind the scenes material on his account. He's awesome. And now, our feature presentation. When I made my Destroy All Humans documentary a couple years ago, I knew it wouldn't be the last time I'd be talking about the series, given how at some point I'd have to discuss Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobe. Once I did that, I figured that would be all I'd have to say about Destroy All Humans. Or so I thought. While I was working on a video last year, I took a break and hit up Hidden Palace, a website dedicated to preserving old game builds. I searched up Destroy All Humans, and what I saw next made my heart skip a beat. A Path of the Furon prototype from July 2007 had been quietly uploaded to the site for people to experience. When I saw that, I practically had a heart attack. This isn't the first time an old Destroy All Humans build has been made publicly available, but Path of the Furon was something different. If you've seen my documentary, you know Path of the Furon had a difficult development. To briefly recap, a small but promising studio named Cranky Pants Games, later renamed Sandblast, was tasked with bringing DAH to the next generation. Unfortunately, the decision to use Unreal Engine 3 caused a lot of technical headaches, and when you factor in the layoffs and the studio's closure, the result was a janky, unfinished mess that put the series on ice for over a decade. It's a janky, unfinished mess, but one I've always had a soft spot for. For years, I hoped an old build of the game might surface, just so we could see what could have been. And in late 2023, my wish was finally granted. For this video, I'm doing a deep dive into the July 2007 Path of the Furon prototype to see what it offers and what makes this build unique. As I said, this build is from July 2007 and is more or less the version of the game that was shown off at E3 2007. Getting the build to run is pretty straightforward. First, you'll need to download the Xbox 360 emulator Xenia Canary, then the Path of the Furon file off Hidden Palace. Extract the file via 7-zip and type up the patch you see here in Notepad. Be sure to save it as a .toml file or it won't run. Finally, open Xenia Canary settings in Notepad and change the GPU specs to Vulkan. If done correctly, you should be able to play the build no problem. Booting the game up takes you to the main menu. Most of the options are inaccessible save for load game and the debug level select, which is this blank space on the bottom. Because this is a prototype, the levels are in varying stages of completion. Most feature untextured buildings or areas that aren't built, like the Los Paradiso suburbs. The audio for these environments is either present or absent. Several feature placeholder sounds, most notably Los Paradiso, which uses Takashima's music in place of its own tunes. Shenlong and Belleville have their own music, while Sunnywood and the fourth ring of Furon are near silent, save for explosions and the occasional sound effect. Of the 5 levels, the fourth ring of Furon is the most unfinished. Almost all the buildings are untextured, there's a weird motion blur smeared all over the stage, and NPCs are practically absent, save for the humans in the Funky Town Dome and any Nexos that spawn. Crypto remains frozen, though he can jump and slide across the level. Despite how unfinished they are, they're fun to explore. Los Paradiso and Shenlong are more visually striking in this build compared to the final game. The glitzy neon and setting sun capture the Sin City vibe of Los Paradiso. while the pouring rain and thunder make Shenlong feel very ominous.
All I wanna know is, can I blow things up?
All of Crypto's weapons and abilities are available to use, though some of them behave a bit differently. Let's focus on the guns first, starting with the Venus Human Trap. Instead of immediately summoning the plant, the gun launches a seed that burrows into the ground before bursting out. In a now deleted blog written by one of the designers, he said the team changed it because while the seed burrowing animation was cute to watch, it took too much time, so they sped it up by having the gun just summon the plant. The black hole gun, called the black hole bomb, functions the same, although you can spawn it on the ground, which is likely a glitch, but a cool one nonetheless. I also love how as the vortex expands, humans and vehicles are lifted off the ground. The super baller, called the super bouncy ball, uses the ion detonator as a placeholder model. The dislocator, misspelled disc locator, fires tires as a placeholder. The Zap-O-Matic is a bit glitched as it fires in an overhead arc whenever you shoot it. Plus, Crypto raises his left hand while firing it. Other weapons like the ion detonator, disintegrator ray, and anal probe remain unchanged, though the ion detonator packs a bigger punch in this build. Ion explosions rattle the screen and send bodies flying. Speaking of which, Ragdoll is in this build and is quite satisfying.
Psychokinetic power is not just a beam from your brain. It is part of the fabric of life. A force, if you will.
Crypto's mental abilities are largely the same in this build. It's just they're strong as hell. Mind Read, Extract, Body Snatch, Disco Fever, PK, PK Magnet, and Temporal Fist are here, as is the Follow Protect ability from Destroy All Humans 2. This particular ability would have been used in a couple of missions, but it ended up being cut. Mind Read is fun to use if only to hear the placeholder dialogue, though the audio mixing can sometimes make it hard to hear.
Why did I let myself get married by a cult leader in a mass wedding? And where can I get a mass divorce?
Things get more interesting with the PK powers. Because there's Ragdoll, it feels great whenever you fling humans around. PK is powerful, but PK Magnet is incredible. Spamming the Magnetize button lets you grab scores of humans, creating a gigantic human Katamari ball that tanks the frame rate. No wonder this got nerfed. The Temporal Fist is unchanged, though I love how the audio becomes muted and distorted. It happens in the final game, but not as often. Also, you can use any weapon when it's activated, not just the ion detonator.
Holy fish paste, what is that?
Yes, that's a giant brain. Originally, brains used to be different sizes depending on if you killed humans with weapons or used the extract ability. This was nixed because the team found it creepy having giant brains float towards Crypto.
Tight handling, smooth ride, fine Corinthian leather.
The saucer has its share of unique bells and whistles in this build. For example, you can hop in and out of the saucer anytime by pressing up on the D-pad. A handy feature, and one I wouldn't mind seeing included in a future game. Pressing the A button activates a speed boost. My guess is it was removed because the game world couldn't load in time to match its speed, as you can see here. Clicking the right stick locks the saucer's position and allows you to change height without holding the left bumper. Amusingly, you can bring the saucer down to street level if you want. The saucer's weapon roster is the same, it's just they're more visually striking. The Death Ray and Tornadotron aren't that effective, but the Plasma Cannons and Quantum Deconstructor can lay waste to the environment. The Wanted system functions a bit differently. In this prototype, it's a radial system that fills up and changes color as you cause more destruction, whereas in the final game it uses Destroy All Humans 2's Wanted system. On foot, it escalates from police to SWAT to military to Nexo. In the saucer, you'll have to deal with helicopters and AA units. Helicopters have a Gatling gun they'll fire in addition to missiles, while AA units will fire a 6-missile salvo in addition to regular missiles.
The time is nearly at hand. A great wrong will be righted. an ancient prophecy fulfilled, and a hero of legend will arise.
Now for the part people are most curious about, cut content. In case you don't know, Path of the Furon has a huge amount of cut content, including unused missions, dialogue, etc. The good news is this build features said cut content. The bad news is it's barely functional. Each level features a debugged mission giver that lets you access the missions and challenges for that area. Sounds promising, but most of the missions are unfinished or crash the build if you try to play them. Fortunately, I was able to access the build's audio files and use those to piece together what was cut. Lost Paradiso had a side mission where Crypto delivers food from a Big Willie's restaurant. During this quest, him and Pox talk about what's become of the place since Pox sold it. Another quest had Crypto and Pox stage a world premiere for a new movie, only to then sabotage the premiere when they realize the movie is a stinker. The most noticeable omission comes in the Shenlong mission Fist of Furon, where Crypto defends the monastery from an attack by Saxon. In the final game, Crypto draws out Saxon by taunting him, which leads to this confusing editing mess.
Saxon, pusillanimous, craven, decimated, impudent malingerer.
What the hell was that?
The original version of this scene was much different.
Saxon, I've decimated your feeble men, foiled your impudent plan. Will you face me, or continue to hide in the shadows like a craven, pusillanimous malingerer? What the hell did I just say?
In my Destroy All Humans documentary, I mentioned how 15 to 20 minutes of cinematics were deleted or altered from the final game. The reason for these edits was to speed up the pace and remove bits the team thought lingered on too long.
Murray, I have so many ways to get crap out of you, you wouldn't believe it. But this is new shag. Why don't you spill your guts before I do?
Curry, you green monkey.
I am not green.
This covers the essentials, but here are a few extra bits I thought were worth mentioning. Lost Paradiso and Shenlong have placeholder ads advertising THQ games like Destroy All Humans, Evil Dead Regeneration, and Saints Row. The temporary loading screen for the fourth ring refers to it as IS Gorda. Originally, the player would have traveled to the Furon homeworld itself, but it was changed to the fourth ring of Furon because of technical issues. Pressing the back button disables the HUD, handy if you want to make your own montages.
Submit to my tutelage, Crypto, and when you are ready, I will tell you who is behind your recent trouble.
I've always been interested in game development and seeing what changes and what stays the same. Old game builds show where a project was during development and are an important piece of gaming history. When I was younger and heavily obsessed with Destroy All Humans, I'd look up the old trailers and developer screenshots to see how different Path of the Furon looked compared to the final product. Doing the Destroy All Humans documentary gave me the chance to learn why the game turned out the way it did. Having played the prototype, I can see Sandblast had the right intentions, it just needed a lot more work. In some ways, this prototype is better than the final game, and in many ways, it shows how much of a headache working with Unreal Engine 3 was. Still, I'm glad a rare piece of Destroy All Humans history is now available. And who knows, maybe another build might surface sometime soon. This marks the end of my deep dive into Path of the Furon's recently unearthed prototype. It's not quite over, as I still have some unfinished business in the form of Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobe. Until then, thank you for watching.